Good evening. Welcome to our show. John Clauser, Johnny Metal, the Metal Dad, coming to you from my music corner of the world. And let's see, I have to think about this one. There's no really good one here. The one who loves to ride and ride to live, and the my fellow kid who is back with me for another week of getting twisted. My faithful co-captain, John the Music Nut. How you doing, my friend?
I am. I'm me. I'm real. You'll see. How are you?
Oh man. Uh man, I'm all twisted up here. I couldn't come up with a good enough intro, but
It's all good.
it's we're getting twisted, folks. It's I hope you all enjoyed the our look at Under the Blade last week. That was a lot of fun. Today, let's just pull out all my little doodads here.
All right.
The Atlantic debut on the major label. They finally get signed to the major label. But you can't stop rock and roll. Here's the little reissue here with the red cover. And this has a DVD with the Live at the Marquee. But okay, so they finally get signed to Atlantic Records. Jason, I think it's Jason Flom is the one who takes the big chance on them. Um, they record the studio at Studio Soul in Cockham, England. Producer Stuart Epps, who had worked with Led Zeppelin, um, Rick Derringer, bunch of other folks. I think um, there's a few others that just escaped my memory. But anyway, um, three singles, as John alluded to already. I Am, I'm Me was the first one, released in March of '83. The Kids Are Back, May of '83, and then the title track in August of '83. Um, Not much chart action here. It does go to 14 on the UK charts. Billboard, US Billboard, only to 130, so it doesn't really crack it too terribly bad. But you know, it's exposing the world to this. Now, which look do you prefer, you ask? Well, they pulled off the bad boy look here, but then they pull off the glammed drag look, whatever you want to call it, and they pulled it off well. So you can't stop rock and roll, John. Have at it, my friend.
All right. Thanks, John. Now, what you hear on this album, this is their second album. You got the same lineup here of Dee Snider, Eddie Ojeda, JJ French, Mark Mendoza, AJ Pirro. You're seeing or you're hearing them become a tighter band,
Mhm.
and they were already pretty tight on Under the Blade. There is more melody on this album, but they're still a heavy metal band. There's a lot of space between the notes on here. A lot of times they're really letting those rhythms carry the songs. And D is who was already persona was had a personality like 10 times greater than most singers. It was getting even stronger at this point. Songs are really good. You really see a gateway to stay hungry here too, particularly on the opening track. The Kids Are Back, where you got that. It sounds like you hear feet stomping, and then it goes into that core. It goes into that, and then we go into the chorus. Here, what's interesting about the choruses here and how D is approaching them. The first chorus, he's in that Alice Cooper voice he goes into now and then. The second chorus, he's singing. The third chorus, he does a little bit of both. Great track here. Great opener. I don't think it's on the level of what you don't know sure can hurt you. It's not as heavy. It's more accessible, more melodic, but it's a cool tune. It's got a really memorable, simple chorus on it. Gets this album off to a strong start. Like a knife in the back, you got that piercing sound in the beginning, right below the riff, and then you hear it again near the end of the song. This is more heavy metal. It's just You got just chords while D is belting out those lyrics, and AJ and Mark are laying down that groove, and they lay down the groove a lot on this album, which I really like. What I really like about this album is you really can hear Mark Mendoza.
Yes.
And Mark Mendoza is a very underrated bass player. Some of these bass lines on here are really cool for heavy metal. This is a killer track, but this is heavy. It's got great attitude about it. Very strong. Ride to live, live to ride. Here you got those chords in there while D is singing the song. AJ and Mark laying down that groove, as I said before. Here it's really notable, and it's a more driving track here. Great. The chorus on here might be the best chorus on the album. This is killer. Excellent track here. Great heavy metal. A lot of hints of new wave of British heavy metal again on this song. Very strong. I Am I Me sounds like a prelude to We're Not Gonna Take It. It's got that really killer chorus on it. It's very melodic and accessible. The solo is very lyrical that you could sing along to it. The ad-libbing at the end of the song while the band's yelling, I am, I me, I am, I me. The ad-libbing by D, killer. Great hook on that. Very, very strong. Power and the Glory. One of my favorite songs, if not my favorite song on the album. This is killer heavy metal right here. You got this nice, you got this real slow burn going in here. Again, you got AJ and Mark leading the way with while D is belting out that lyric. And then the guitars come in slowly. And then they pick up the tempo. And then you get both guitars kicking in. And then D holds that note at the end. And then dun, dun, and then you hear AJ throwing in those crazy drum fills. And then it picks up the pace and it becomes near speed metal. But the chords, the riffs here are bringing you in. This is a kick-ass track.
Yes, it is.
A song of rebellion, a redemption. Killer heavy metal here. This is, you could say this is Twisted Sister at their best. This is when they were really, really heavy metal. You wouldn't hear this too much longer into the future, but this is kick-ass. We're gonna make it. Another great anthem here. And the chorus is awesome. We got a great hook in the end of the chorus when it goes, and then, dun, dun, we're never gonna stop. Dun, dun. And then it goes back into that riff, which is wicked. Great song. Another great song here. You got 6 killer songs here again. Very heavy, but there's more melody here than you hear on Under the Blade. Not as raw as Under the Blade, better recorded than Under the Blade. You have the rhythms carrying the songs more than you do the chords, but what the guitars are still evident here. But it's those rhythms and Dee's attitude that are carrying a lot of these songs. I've Had Enough is probably my least favorite song of those first 3 albums. It's decent. I like the groove that Mark and AJ are laying down, but when I listen to this, it's more LA. This isn't New York. This is Dawkins. This is more Rat. This is more Quiet Riot. Okay? Especially lyrically. Because they're talking more about those kind of themes instead of, fighting against a man, wanting to rock for the kids, being yourself. This is more about hooking up and all that stuff, which isn't what Twisted Sister should be singing about, in my opinion. It's just not their forte. This is what those LA metal bands do well. And that's not a knock on LA metal bands. What they do, I love a lot of LA metal, but Twisted Sister shouldn't be doing LA metal.
Mm.
I'll Take You Alive has this riff. It sounds like a cross between early Maiden and a little bit of Black Sabbath, the song Trashed off of Born Again, even though that album would come a few months later.
Yeah.
This is decent. We got a cool drum solo at the end, but again, even though there's some cool guitar chords on here and riffs, I don't know if the song completely takes off. However, I do love You're Not Alone, Suzette's song. That's a great power ballad.
Yes, it is.
Now we get tons, right? We get tons of these power ballads 5 years from now, but they don't have the grit and passion more often than not that this one does.
Mhm.
Dee wrote this for his wife Suzette. They've been married since 1981. That says a lot in the rock and roll industry. Respect.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
A lot of passion and grit here. Dee's vocal performance is awesome. The backing vocals work very well. You got the lyrical solo in here as well. This is a very well constructed power ballad.
Mm-hmm.
You were getting some power ballads here and there at this point, but this is 1983, 1987, 88. We're going full blown. Well, they're a melodic hair metal band. We got to have the power ballad. But this is better than a lot of those ones that later became huge hits.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The title track and the closing track, Wicked, starts with those dun, 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 dun. You hear the cymbal getting hit. And then you hear it again. Then you hear it a third time. And then it goes into that riff. And that riff is killer. And here comes Dee with this wonderful kick-ass lyric here. I listen to this lyric, I read these words, I'm like, this sounds a little something Rob Halford would write around
Yeah.
this song. Song of redemption, song about you can't stop rock and roll. It is a movement. It is killer. The musical interludes at the end of these verses. That's really cool. A part of the song you wouldn't really think about, but I think it makes the track. The musical bridge in here is very cool. How they change up the tempo during the second solo and you make it more driving is very good. Excuse me. Dee's vocal on here, like the rest of the album, kills. But I think his vocal performances on these last two songs are the best on the album. The end of the song, can't stop, you can't stop it, can't stop, you can't stop it. That's another great hook.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Dee was maturing as a songwriter here and would really reach its fruition on that next album. But here, there's so much to love. If you like their melodic side, if you like their heavy side, if you're a heavy metal purist, you're going to probably like Under the Blade more. But what they do here is you're seeing them progress. You could say this is like a great gateway album
Mm-hmm.
between Under the Blade, which a lot of longtime fans would say is their best, and Stay Hungry, which is their most successful. So I'm going to give this an 8. And it's might seem a little low only because I'm not a big fan of I've Had Enough and I'll Take You Alive. I think there are songs that came out on a remastered version that were bonus tracks,
Mm-hmm.
particularly Feel the Power, I think would have been a better fit on this album.
Yeah.
But you got so many killer tracks on here. Those first 6 in particular, wicked. And again, You're Not Alone, great power ballad, and You Can't Stop Rock and Roll is a great anthem. So, yes, very strong heavy metal album. We give it an 8 out of 10. There you go.
All right. 8 out of 10. All right. All right. Yes. Yeah, you gotta love the three bonus tracks. I remember my friend Dave, he had managed to get a hold of the You Can't Stop Rock and Roll single, which you can't really see it on this CD cover, but it was, yeah, they had the three bonus tracks. It was One Man Woman, Four Barrel Heart of Love, and Feel the Power. I'll get to those at the end because I have a special place in my heart for those three songs. But yeah, again, just riding off of that first time we heard Under the Blade, you know, we put this cassette on, and it's just like, you're right. It's that gateway to stay hungry. And so the kids are back. You get that marching sound like you mentioned, straight ahead rocker, no fancy riffs, just pounding those chords. Dun 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 dun. You know, simple. Nothing fancy. Straight ahead, in your face, chugging it, rock and roll. AJ low, holding the beat down. Mark just kind of going along with the guitars here. Again, you get just a great song. You get a great Eddie solo in this song. These again, the kids are back. Maybe kind of a way of looking at the What You Don't Know Sure Can Hurt You as a sequel. Maybe it's like, hey, we're back. We're just having fun. We're not causing trouble, but we're back. We're not going anywhere. Strong song, strong opener. One of the again, another early song that I learned on guitar. Um, and I just learned the basic riffs. Wasn't learning the guitar solos, just learned the basic riffs. But still a great opener. Like a knife in the back. Again, just another chord filled straight ahead rocker. This almost need for this intense energy. If I don't know what a knife placed in my back feels like, but apparently that's got to be some intense pain and energy kind of thing going on. But it still tells a really interesting story behind it. You get another tasty Eddie solo here. Um, Ride to Live, Live to Ride. This is probably becoming one of my favorite songs off this album. I'll get to my favorite in time, but Ride to Live. I mean, there's just something very emotional about this song. I don't know what it is. It's again just those ringing chords, the way Dee's delivering it, Mark and AJ going back. This was just like a perfect storm of stuff coming together. Again, that free this would have worked well with a Judas Priest talking about the motorcycle life,
Oh yeah.
and stuff like that. You get some very tasty JJ solos here. One thing I'm very thankful for with these early albums is that it tells you who plays what. So it helps me considerably because sometimes I'm trying to pick up on who plays what. And one thing I'll say is that, it seems like Eddie was always the one getting focused on with his guitar playing. But JJ, he's a good player himself. And he
Oh
wasn't getting
yes.
quite the notice that Eddie was getting, which is I always found kind of interesting. I Me, as I mentioned, that first single, again, celebrating that individuality. I don't know, very, very, just a big ACDC like chord song. Nothing, again, nothing terrible, nothing, very straightforward, very simplistic. Great solo here from lyrical solo, like you mentioned, from Eddie. Power and the Glory, you get Mark and AJ leading the charge. And then here comes D with that swagger voice of his. Again, maybe a little bit of an AC/DC flavor here again, but boy, then they double time that tempo, and it's just like, man, just another great song, getting you kind of seeking that inner fire within yourself, seeking the truth, find your strength, all that good stuff. D was just known for wanting to write at this point. Another great J solo, perfect album, perfect side closer to side A. We're gonna make it another, to me, almost an AC/DC like rocker. And I'm like, I've heard this riff somewhere before. And I'm bashing my brain trying to think of the closest thing I could think of that it sounded like. And I think I finally figured it out. Whole lot of Rosie. Da da
Hmm.
da 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 da
Yeah.
da
Yep.
da. I
Yep.
know maybe that was the first thing I could come up with, but it just has that kind of AC/DC feel like. Still great track though. Another great rocker, resilience, determination, hope. Great. JJ, another great solo. Gotta love that. Um, I've had enough. Again, you get that Mark and AJ leading the charge against basically about a woman who just can't seem to stay with one man.
Hmm.
Again, you're right. This doesn't seem like something that Twisted Sister should be singing about. You're right. It does seem kind of odd, but Eddie still brings a really good solo. Musically, I think it's still pretty good. I kind of like some of the hooks and some of the riffs here. Um, I'll Take You Alive. I agree with you. Not a. It feels like it could have been realized a little bit more. I think
Yes.
there's a little bit of stuff here that I think between a good Eddie solo and then the AJ solo, I think it could have been realized a little bit more. That one's probably, if I had to rank the songs, that one would probably be my least favorite. But You're Not Alone, the nice tender ballad, I guess you could call it, which again seems a little strange coming out of Twisted Sister because there's really nothing ballady about Under the Blade.
Mhm.
But
No.
this one, again, because of Dee's lyrics to his wife, very heartfelt, which you think about some of the hair metal power ballads. I don't really know how many of those were truly heartfelt per se.
Yes.
He's really singing this one from the heart because he's singing it to somebody in particular. Maybe Balladed Jane from LA Guns because they're singing about Jane Mansfield. Yeah, maybe not the same vein, but still works. But anyway, this you could tell this is all from the heart. JJ handles the guitars all on this. Beautifully arranged song, wonderful song. The title song. It just doesn't get any better than this, folks. This song, classic Twisted Sister at its best. Just again, there's really no. It's just an E chord. There's a little riff here, but I mean, it's just this bludgeoning E chord. There's nothing crazy, but while technically about this, it's just in your face.
Yep.
The spirit of rock and roll, you just cannot stop. It literally is like a raging bull coming at you at 100 miles an hour, and it ain't gonna stop. You get a great JJ solo, uh, good riffs. Actually, there is some more note riffs in this song where you didn't really get much of this in this entire. Again, Twisted Sister isn't necessarily known for their riffy riffs. It's just big chords. Peter Kerr, I think you're listening on this one because I seem to think you like a lot of heavy chord riffs instead of the note things like you mentioned in a Judas Priest episode. So, album closer proper, amazing. Makes you want to listen to it again. And I probably did many a time. Let's look at the three bonus tracks real quick. One Man Woman. Okay. Yeah, again, maybe a weird song for a New York band to be singing about a woman who's a one man woman. You don't even hear that in rock and roll. That's unusual. But then, hey, but I'm a one woman man. Wow, that's something else you don't hear in you don't hear in heavy metal and hard rock and roll. But hats off to D for doing that. A good riff chord rocker here. I really I always dug this one. This one was probably my favorite of the three bonus tracks. Um, four barrel four barrel heart of love. Well, this is this is another one of those songs that's like, well, you could be talking about cars, you could be talking about motorcycles. I don't know what you could be talking about, but it's still it's not a bad song, but it's not something that they should have been writing about. So not 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 good double entendre type of things, I guess you could say. Feel the Power, very charged anthem, good good bonus track. I would probably rank those. That would probably be my second favorite. Four Barrel Harlow would probably be my least of the three bonus tracks, but still a solid album. Here, I'll probably go. I'm not going to go quite as low as 8, but I still would give this at least a 9. Um, I just have way too many good memories with this whole album. Just like Under the Blade. There's just too many good memories tied to this thing. And I like Stuart Epps' production with this. Even though sometimes the drums can sound a little gated at times. A little
Yes.
bit. There's a few times it gets kind of gated, but it's still good. I think Mark Mendoza had some studio assistance with this, which he would do on later albums. Um, but yeah, album proper, 38 minutes, just in your face, great stuff. Classic Twisted Sister. So there you go. Whichever version you want to, I can hold up here. So now they were probably starting to get on a little notice with some touring, maybe perhaps.
Oh, yes. We
All
got
right.
58 dates for You Can't Stop Rock and Roll.
Okay.
35 in the States, 4 in Canada, 11 in the United Kingdom, 3 in Germany, 2 in France, 1 each in Belgium, Ireland, and the Netherlands. This album, they hit 7 songs off this album. We're Gonna Make It, You Can't Stop Rock and Roll, I Am, I'm Me, Ride to Live, Live to Ride, The Kids Are Back, I'll Take You Alive, and Like a Knife in the Back. They started the tour April 10, 1983 in England at the Royal Court Theatre in Liverpool. They played Nightclub in Edinburgh, Scotland. They played Mayfair Ballroom in Newcastle upon Tyne, England. Lita Ford was also on the bill, pushing the Out for Blood album. That was her debut.
Yeah.
They played University of Sheffield and Sheffield, England, Delicium Ballroom in London, England. A band that we've talked about put a live video out from Lyceum right over John's shoulder. You could see the
Yep.
band.
Yep.
So there you go. Came back to the States. They played the Beacon Theater in New York. They played Mid Hudson Civic Center in Poughkeepsie, New York again. The Fountain Casino in Aberdeen Township, New Jersey. 2 nights at L'Amour's in Brooklyn, New York. The very famous L'Amour Club. So many great bands played L'Amour's. And then July 26th, they go on a tour. They're playing some bigger venues. They're playing Tucson Convention Center in Tucson, Arizona. Also on the bill, Crocus, pushing their best album, in my opinion, Headhunter. And Blackfoot would have been the headliner here. They're promoting the Siogo album, which is where I think they started to slip. I mean, Tom Catton and Marauder, those albums are heavy Southern rock albums that kick ass. Siogo, the keyboards kick in. But yeah, Crocus, Headhunter. And then the cracks would form after that. We'll probably talk about that in a future episode. But they also played Sacramento Memorial Auditorium in Sacramento, California. They come back to the Beacon Theater in New York City with the Rods opening. There's a cool band right there.
Yeah.
They play Monsters of Rock in Castle Donington, England. Also on the bill, Diamond Head, Dio, Meatloaf, White Snake, and ZZ Top. And looking at the set list, I'm thinking either White Snake or ZZ Top headlined. It may have been White Snake because White Snake were much bigger in the UK.
Yeah. They would have
Early.
been, what did that would have been around Slide It In?
I think Saints and Sinners.
Saints and Sinners.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
Slide In was 84.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, but they were huge in Europe when their albums were hard to find here. And Slide In, they broke open, well, and more so with the self-titled album. I gotta take a drink.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you said Meatloaf, which he wasn't, I mean, after the first Bat Out of Hell album, I mean, he was doing stuff, but nothing that compared to Bat Out of Hell's
Right.
popularity. So interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna say maybe it was Dead Ringer, or maybe
Yeah.
the album after it. I'm not 100% sure. But they played Dallymount Park in Dublin, Ireland for a garden party. This was also a festival.
Okay.
Also on the bill. And Black Sabbath had to headline this for Born Again. We got Motorhead, Anvil, Mama's Boys. And yep, that was it. I got another one I got to talk about here a little later. Actually, is that the same bill? Oh, okay. Never mind. They played another one, Monster. They played in the Monsters of Rock in Kaiserslautern, Germany. And on that bill, we got Blue Oyster Cult, Meatloaf again, Motorhead, Saxon, Thin Lizzy, and the headliner is Whitesnake. So then they go play Lyon, France. They come back to the States. They play the Uptown Theater in Kansas City, Missouri, Haymakers in Wheeling, Illinois, Harpo's in Detroit, Michigan. You've heard us talk about that venue quite a bit. When they were playing these smaller gigs, but great gigs, Queensryche was on this bill playing their EP. And this was in 83. They were playing several songs from Warning a year before Warning came out.
Ooh. Ooh.
There's a killer ass bill, huh?
Wow.
Mm-hmm. He played a wax museum in Washington, D.C., the what I call the Paul Stanley Theater in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Chance in Poughkeepsie, New York, the Ritz in New York, New York, Concert Hall in Toronto, Ontario, Pep O'Brien's in Old Forge, Pennsylvania, named after the boxer Pep O'Brien, who changed his name. He was an Italian boxer who changed his name to an Irish name. Old Forge, hometown of the incomparable Nick Esquire, who's seen several shows at Pep O'Brien's, by the way. Then they
Hi,
played
Nick.
yep. Hello, Nick. The Metron in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. They played the Tower Theater in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania.
Oh.
And Dio was headlining.
Ooh.
And they also played, and that was actually the last bill of the tour, but they also, before that, they went back to Lemoore in Brooklyn, New York, and they opened for X, the great punk rock band who
Oh,
later
yeah.
added a lot of genres to their sound, particularly rockabilly and folk rock. X are a cool band. But yeah, that's an interesting bill there. So there you go. So 58 dates in for this album. You can't stop rock and roll.
Very, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's funny when looking at the CD version of this, um there's a bonus disc that where it's alive at the Marquee from 1983. So this one came out, the dates that this was done was about a month or so before You Can't Stop Rock and Roll came out.
Yes.
So the set they start off, of course, with What You Don't Know Sure Can Hurt You, Sin After Sin, Bad Boys of Rock and Roll, Destroyer, Leader of the Pack, which I need to listen to these old things and so on. Again, why? Tear It Down, Tear It Loose. Then there's a band rap. Then they do You Can't Stop Rock and Roll, which actually was on a compilation in 82 called Son of Homegrown, which I need to look that up and see what that was all about. Anyway, Run for Your Life, Shoot 'em Down. You notice there's a lot of Under the Blade tracks mostly. Then D does a little rap. They do a cover of It's Only Rock and Roll, but I like it. Band introductions, I Am, I'm Me, Under the Blade, and then Let the Good Times Roll, and no, not the Cars song. But anyway, so that was the set for that. So only two songs from this album is all that they would give the public at this point. But of course, You Can't Stop Rock and Roll was already on a compilation that just re-recorded it. And then I Am I Me, I believe, was the advanced single. So there
Yes.
you go. So yeah, a great album. They finally get their big label break, but they still didn't get that, that big recognition that they were really hoping for. Maybe the labels just didn't push it enough. Maybe, who knows? But as we will learn when we talk about this guy next week, that's when the dam breaks loose. So, what y'all think about You Can't Stop Rock and Roll? what do you think about Twisted Sister in general? You guys had some of you guys had some, I think it was Drew. You had some really good stories there. You had a couple, some people had some great stuff there. So I really appreciate the comments and everything that you're putting in there. Um, all the big, the lingo, the like, share, subscribe. Heck, even go to T Public. You can pick up a t-shirt of our good friends at Grab a Stack of Rock. I got to show that off for Mike because I just got this the other day. But let's see. John and I just did a show on 1981 on Grants Rock Warehouse. Um, I think I recorded something for the Contrarians over the weekend. Talking about Iron Maiden, believe it or not. Yes, I know a lot of you people would love for us to do Iron Maiden. Sorry, not gonna happen. They've been talked about enough. I think we can kind of let them slide for today, or for at least going in depth with them. But and besides, Tyler and Peter Jones were doing a great job until Tyler's work life kind of slowed him down. But John, you got anything else in the pipeline coming along, or
That's
nope?
pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. All right,
Mhm.
rock and roll. Well, in that case, y'all. You know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, do all that YouTube lingo. We'll come back at you next week. Not hopefully not burning in hell because it's hot. It feels hot enough to be burning out there. But we will try to make you maybe stay a little hungry as we talk about stay hungry next week. So for my good co-captain, John the Music Nut, Rock Forever, John the Music, Johnny Metal, Johnny Clouds of the Metal Deck. We'll see you next week for Stay Hungry, Stay Twisted, y'all. Take care.